Be real.
Let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Happy Monday.
Hey guys, and happy Wednesday to y'all. Welcome back to the Let's Be Real podcast.
Yes. How was your guys' week? Or your week, JoJo?
Mine was good. And for anyone new listening, I'm Joslyn.
And I am Rachel.
But my week was good. I've pretty chill. I didn't do anything too crazy this weekend. Kept it pretty light. Just like took care of, I've got a busy 3 weeks coming up. So I'm going to be traveling next week, and then I have someone coming in town the week after. And then the following weekend after, I have more people coming in town. So,
okay, little host.
Yes. So I spent this weekend, doing laundry, all the little tedious little tasks that you need to get done. But it was good. How was your weekend?
It was long but short. I actually took Friday off because, my son doesn't go to daycare. You know that. His grandpa watches him during the day, and grandpa broke his foot and he had to have surgery. No. Yeah, he got a plate in his ankle because the bone was too far away. So they had to put it in there to seal it back up. But yeah, so I had to take off work, which is delightful. I also had a doctor's appointment, and I haven't told anyone this, but I feel comfortable saying it on the pod for some reason. But I found a lump in my left breast. So that's why I went to the doctor. It's little. It's like a centimeter. But the doctor says he thinks it's more cystic. So to monitor it, and if it doesn't go away in like a month, then I'll go for imaging. But other than that, we just hung out.
Sending you all the good vibes. Oh my goodness. No, that's a lot. That's scary. I understand, but sending you all the good vibes and the good energy that everything's okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Plus it's early too. And if it is something, just take the whole boob off. I don't have time to worry about it. Just take the whole boob off.
I understand. We ain't hesitating. We ain't thinking about it. It's gone.
No, just take it off. I don't need it.
Oh. Well, yeah. So it sounds like you guys had a pretty chill weekend. Chill weekend all around.
Yeah, not much. We went to the park because the boy, I'd like to get him socialized, and I'm even thinking of putting him in daycare for 2 days a week, something like that, something small, just so he can get socialized.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel that. You talking about your dad's foot reminds me, today I was at the grocery store, and I was like, dude, my left knee is hurting, and I said out loud, is this what getting old feels like? My knees hurt. And literally an older couple standing in front of me turned around and they were like, yes, this is what getting old feels like. And I'm like, oh, it's
no, for real.
I'm not ready.
What are some old things that happened to me? I don't know. Because, I'm pushing 30. I don't think
We're so old.
Bruh, I know we're not, but I feel old.
No, I get what you're saying. That's anytime I'm having back pain all the time, I'm I don't remember my body used to feel like this. And it's I think that's the age. It's catching up with us.
I can't remember anything to save my life. I have to, if it's not noted or on a calendar somewhere, I will forget.
That's fair. Well, I did finish one of my books that I talked about last week. The one in 5 years. I actually read it so fast. When we finished recording the pod last week, I think I was on chapter 7 when we talked about it in the pod. I read to chapter 17, 19 that night.
Yeah.
And then I just had to know what happened, so I read the rest of it the next day.
Okay, so tell me about it. Tell me about it.
so good. It's called In 5 Years. If you don't want spoilers, I should know the author's name. I don't remember at this moment.
No, give spoilers.
Skip ahead. But yeah, there's going to be spoilers. But it's such a good book. So essentially, this girl, like I said last week, she gets an interview with her dream job. She's a lawyer. She lives in New York. She's had her whole life mapped out, planned out. Everything's going according to her plan. Her boyfriend proposes to her that night, and she falls asleep on her couch with him after, the height of all the night and everything and the excitement. And she falls asleep for 1 hour, and she has a dream, and she wakes up and she's in this apartment with a completely different man. And at first she's confused, but then she realizes that, there's something with this man, and they end up sleeping together. But the dream is only for an hour long, and she wakes up. And the dream takes place 5 years later, 5 years later than the current day. So she can't shake this dream, and she feels like it wasn't a dream, it was a premonition, she was actually there 5 years later. And she even goes to see a psychiatrist to try to talk to them about it. She's like, maybe I was just getting nervous, whatever it is. But essentially, honestly, it really turned out to be a story about it's surprising. It's really turned out to be a story that really talked about friendship and best friendship, because come to find out 5 years down the road, a couple months before the date of when she was in her dream, her best friend Bella meets this guy that she's crazy about, and it's the same guy from her dream. So she's so confused. And at this point, she's still engaged to her fiance, David. Now she's meeting this guy. And so she's kind of confused. And she spends all this time trying to make sure that her dream or her premonition doesn't manifest into a reality. But it kind of takes you along the story. Her best friend gets sick. And you kind of go through that, and you see how ultimately she ends up on that day in 5 years reliving that premonition that she had. So it was really good.
So it actually happened.
It does actually happen, but it still doesn't end the way that you think it does. It's such a good story. I think it's just such a great story to remind you that it's I think it's okay to have plans and make plans and have goals, but you can never really plan. And we really just have to focus on being present in the moment, because literally anything can happen, And it's she did so many things to make sure. I mean, all the way up to planning her wedding, being a month and a half away from the day of her wedding happening, and it doesn't happen. So it's really good. I highly suggest it. It's a good read. It's pretty quick. If you read fast, it's a pretty quick read. So
yeah,
I started my second book, Single Black Woman, which I think is going to be really good. It's going to be a little bit of a longer read. The first chapter was 58 pages, but
58 pages.
Really, yeah, I definitely think if you are a Black woman, you should read it. It's definitely centered around the George Floyd kind of stuff and all of that. So I'm excited to dive into that one. But yeah, I finished it.
Is it Single Black Female? I'm not seeing woman popular.
Yeah, Single Black Female. I'm sorry. That's correct. I'm looking, I see it over there next to my bed.
Single Black Female by Tracy Brown. Okay.
Yes.
I'll put it on my to be read list, and the other one, because that sounds really good.
Yeah, it was really good. I got it at Target. It was $13, super inexpensive. So
cool. So I'm still reading The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I was actually reading it as we're waiting to get on, but I'm about halfway through, and girl,
it's good. I've heard it's so good. I think I'm going to read that one next.
I want to give a spoiler. So Miss Evelyn Hugo, she is that bitch. She is that chick. You got to give it to her. She grew up in a household that was abusive. When her mom died, it was just her and her father wasn't, he was ass. So, at the age of 14, she started developing herself. You know how at the age of 14, we start getting boobs and whatnot? So,
yes, puberty's hitting.
Yeah, she got some huge knockers when puberty hit. And then she just came into her womanness and was like very attractive.
Yeah.
And she started noticing that she can get whatever she wanted from men. And she met this guy. I forget his name. It's her first husband. He's not really that significant in the story. But he was moving to California. And when she met him, she was like, that is my ticket to Hollywood, because she wanted to be an actor.
Yeah.
And so when she met, he was like, how old are you? And she was like 16. You know, we've all lied to a guy. And they ended up getting married, and she moved to California with him because she saw that as her way out. She got discovered as an actor, got signed by this company called Sunset Studios, and started off with like little roles, but then worked her way up through sex. Worked her way up through sex. And she started dating she was told to divorce her husband when she started getting like bigger roles because she needed to date other actors for her image. So the studio paid off her husband and they divorced. He started his own life, whatever. Came up on a check.
Gosh, that's saucy.
And then she started dating this other actor named Don, which he was great in the beginning. As soon as they got married, he started beating on her, and she took it for a couple years until she landed this role that she really wanted. She got the lead in Little Woman, and there was this other cast member, which is her supporting role. Her name is Celia. They became best friends. And once they all went to the premiere together to watch the movie, everything was great. They went to the after party, and then her other co-host pulled her into this room and was like, Celia's a lesbian, right? She likes girls. And Evelyn's like, no way. She's like, yeah. And then also your husband's cheating on you upstairs. And she's like, all right, but where's Celia? Come to find out, Evelyn is in love with Celia. And
So is another one of her husbands a woman?
No.
Okay.
She married all these men to get what she needed to go to the next level, but she was really in love with Celia, a woman. She just used these men.
I need to read that. I've heard that's a really good read. I need to read that. I'm going to add that to my list next.
Yes. I'm to the point where she's divorced Dawn, and out of that, she got hella money out of the divorce. It was more like hush money. People started being suspicious about her and Celia, so she married this one guy as a plot. Like, she got him drunk, took him to Vegas, coerced him into marrying her, and then she faked being bad at sex so he would want to get an annulment the following morning, and it worked. But homegirl got pregnant.
Oh my God.
Celia was like, you weren't supposed to fuck him. You were just supposed to get him to marry you. And now you're pregnant. I'm leaving.
Oh, man. And that probably is like devastating because that's the person she actually loves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to read that. I've seen people talk about it on Book Talk on TikTok, and I'm like, when you told me you're reading it last week, I was like, ooh, I've heard that's good, but now I'm like, now I know a little bit more. It's
yes.
Juicy. So like now
I didn't tell everything. I just told key transitional points. I'm not giving you all the little details.
Tells, yeah.
Yeah.
Go in there for that. Awesome. Well, guys, before we jump into today's topic, a couple things we want to let you guys know. We did add an email link to our Instagram page. So if you guys ever want to write an email in, asking questions, advice on anything going on in your life, please feel free to do that. My best friend, my GBF, Beth, my gay best friend, sent us our first email. This is a shout out for you, Josh. We love you. You are someone in our corner as a support system. But yeah, that will be there for you guys if you guys want to write in. And we can answer any questions that you guys may have to the best of our ability.
Let's tell the people his question and let's answer it.
So his first question was, how is your support team? I'm assuming he's talking about like our support just throughout the podcast and everything we've been doing. So really, it's not a lot of us here. It's me, Rachel, and our producer, Louie. You guys can't see him, but he's here. He's controlling all the things. And then just also you guys, thank you to all of you who have been listening. It warms our heart to see you guys following our socials, liking our reels, and seeing our streams go up. We appreciate you guys so much.
Mm-hmm. What about personally? I feel like it's twofold.
Yeah. I mean, I've had, it's funny because you see what people like actually listen and what people are just like liking or like throw something up. But shout out to my girl Ariel. I love her. She's been listening. She hits me up all the time to let me know that we're doing a great job. So I love that. It means so much to me. I know that all my sisters and brothers have been listening I don't know about my brothers, but I know my sisters have been listening. My mom, she's been listening too. So it's been pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome.
What about for you?
Support team, of course, you guys for the pod. As far as personally, my mom listens to it as well as my boyfriend. And then my friends also listen to it too. So, and it's cool seeing it like being passed around. So I like it. I'm excited to see the growth. So, I mean, if you want to support it. But if you don't, just, sit on the sidelines and watch us grow because we're really going up.
Still give us a like. Give us a follow. We appreciate it. And then another question he had was, do you have a strong, amazing best friend? And yes, Josh, you are a strong, amazing best friend. I know you just wanted me to say that on the internet.
Yes. I would say, it's funny. I would say my absolute best friend is my son, even though he's only a year and a half. Because he does not, he is the ultimate supporter. Yes. So, but he's just a child. But my adult best friend would be his godson. Sorry, not his godson, his godmom. How do I mess that up? But his godmom, Anika, she definitely holds it down, has held it down since college. We met in 2011. And yeah.
Oh, well, we love to hear. We love all of you guys, so thank you so much for supporting. So today, we wanted to talk about self-care because why not? It's so important. You have to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. You want to start us off?
Yeah, so I guess for me, self-care is a lot of things. I feel like this year I've learned a lot about self-care. I mean, we all know about self-care, right? I feel like we're at an all-time high for the self-care movement. There's all kinds of stuff out there, but I've definitely learned a lot about self-care. I moved out from living with roommates for 2.5 years. I mean, I've been living with other people longer than that, so self-care becomes a big part of your routine when you're living alone for the first time in years. But I think self-care is a lot of things, There's the things that we all hear about, taking bubble baths and lighting candles and, face masks and all of that. But I've definitely learned that there's other levels to it. There's actually taking care of yourself, kind of like you said earlier, going to the doctor, checking up on yourself, your body, mental self-care, making sure your mental health is in check. I think making sure your space is in check. And then even, I think, social self-care is another thing, too. Like, you know, making sure that you're getting social interaction, that's super important too. So I think there's so many aspects. I mean, even physical self-care, you know, whether it's working out, going on walks, getting your body moving, things like that. So I think I've kind of learned that self-care is a working thing, or what am I trying to say? It's moving pieces. It's all of those things working in tandem. It's not just one singular thing, and it's something that we're constantly going to be working on, and it's going to constantly evolve with us as our as we evolve as human beings.
Yeah, it's definitely fluid. For me, I mean, it means several things. The biggest thing is protecting your peace. Because like you, I also had like several toxic living situations with roommates. So when I moved out on my own, it really gave me a chance to heal. But my self-care is different in a lot of ways. Like, I'm not the mani-pedi type of self-care kind of gal.
I feel that.
I'm a read a book type gal, go on a walk type of girl. And for me, when it comes to self-care, is making sure things are in order. So then that way, other parts of my life can move smoothly. Like having things prepped and ready to go really eases my mind, because I hate to feel rushed when it comes to anything. And I hate to not be fully prepared so I can give a good performance. So that kind of stuff helps with my self-care. It helps me stay on the right track, relaxes me. And you know what's also kind of freeing? And it's kind of weird saying this, which I didn't really understand how people said this or how people related to it, but your routine and your discipline equals your freedom. Mm-hmm. So I'm understanding that as part of my peace, because a lot of my routines and discipline that I have in place right now is to help reach my goals to the woman I want to be later on in the future. And sticking to them, I feel myself coming into the person I want to be, which gives me peace.
Yeah, so, no. Mm-hmm. I like that you said that. I've never thought about it that way, that like your routines and your discipline, like that leans into it. But it's so true, because like I also think about like for me, my weekend starts on Saturday or Sunday, because I work on Saturdays. And I always notice if I don't wake up on Sunday morning, Sunday morning, God, I can't. It's throwing me for a loop today. If I don't wake up on Sunday, and like that's my day where like I reset my home. Like I like to clean, like do my laundry, make sure the kitchen's wiped down, deep clean the bathroom, all those things. And it's like, if I don't get up and do that, it will literally throw my whole next week off, because it's like, I don't have now when I'm normally doing other things or taking time to myself to do like the more fun things, like, going out somewhere or sitting down and reading my book or binging on a Netflix show. It's like now I'm spending time doing those things, and it kind of just throws it all out of whack. So that's very true. It's like protecting your peace, but like in your routines and your discipline, so that way you can stay on track to what you want to do. So I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other self-cares that you mentioned, like physical health, I'm a firm believer that you have to make yourself whole before you can pour into something else. And having that physical self-care, like going to the gym, being able to make sure your body can do what it needs to do, as well as like the mental self-care, because you need to be good mentally to be there, to be present. So that's very important. And
I think the thing, it's like, recently it's been so like self-care, it's like putting on a face mask or, whatever. But I mean, really, it's like whatever that looks like to you. It's kind of how you said, like, you're not the mani-pedi kind. I'm also not the mani-pedi kind. Now, sometimes I get the urge and I'm like, I want to go get my nails done. I want to go get my toes done. But that's not like my typical self-care routine. You know what I mean? Like, it can be whatever. Like, for me personally, I love going to the gym. So, like, especially on a day like today when I'm off, like, I love on Sunday and Monday to really go to the gym and like take my time, go hard, because that feels good for me. And during the rest of the week when I'm working, I'm typically busy. So I'm not saying that I rush myself necessarily, but there's a little bit more pep in my step of knocking things out so I can get to the next thing. But it can be whatever it is for you. It can be going on a walk outside because you want some fresh air, riding a bike. I mean, anything, stretching, yoga, Pilates, like anything that it is for you. It doesn't have to fit like the picture that a lot of time social media and all that stuff paints for self-care. I mean, honestly, self-care is sitting down and being like, what feels good for you? Like, what's going to make you whole and better? And I think like one thing for me recently that I've noticed, that I've been like leaning into more, which I think is a form of self-care, which for probably a lot of people is just a part of their like daily routine. For me has been like a skincare routine. That's something I've like really leaned into the last couple weeks and like fell in love with. I have really sensitive skin. So like, I always just was like, well, I can't do all of that, but like I've done some research and like, I can't believe how much of a difference it has made me feel to just have like a new skincare routine that I practice every morning and every night before I go to bed. And I'm like, wow, so small. It's like crazy how it makes such a difference. But that's what I mean by like, it can be anything for you, like whatever you want to focus on in that time now and just leaning into that.
So question, do you feel like, because I know depending on, who's in your life and what's going on and what season you're in, self-care can be looked at as a selfish thing. If there's other people in your life that's not usually getting the type of attention that they would normally get. What are your views on that?
I think wholeheartedly, like, what's the most important? It's okay to be selfish. I think like society, I've been seeing a lot of like quotes or like videos or reels, TikToks or whatever. It's funny. My mom was talking to me about this, that like we kind of try to train people that like we should be people pleasing, right? Because like we all love a people pleasing person. Like we love the person where, you ask them, oh, well, like, what do you need from me? And as soon as you're like, oh, I don't need anything from you, like, I'm here to help you. It's like, we love that. Like, oh, you want to help me? You don't need anything. But really, I mean, it's kind of a toxic trait that we teach people. Like, it is okay to be selfish. Like, I think I really learned this last year. I remember last year in February, I was going through a really hard time with a personal situation. And a lot of my friends around me were also going through a hard time, with another situation. And I had this moment of realizing I actually ended up going to my dad's house up in Virginia for a couple weeks. But I realized I had to because kind of like how you said, you can't be present if you're not taking care of your mental health. I was neglecting my feelings and my emotions so much and like trying to be there for my friends that I couldn't even show up whole for them. I wasn't showing up for them as the friend that I wanted to be. And I had that moment of realizing where I felt really selfish for kind of retreating and like, in a sense, kind of running away. But I needed to run away from these people so that I could be alone with myself and focus on myself. So that way, when I came back, I could show up as the friend that I needed to be. So, I mean, I think personally, if anyone's making you feel bad for putting yourself first and they can't understand that,
maybe time to cut ties.
Yeah, because it's like, you have to put your well-being first at the end of the day. And so if you want to show up whole for another person, you know, you have to show up whole for yourself. So I think that's the thing. And then communication too, you know, don't be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
You know, try to let them know what's going on and have a conversation. And if they don't understand that, you know, then another conversation may need to be had. But what about you?
So self-care was really lacking after I had my son. And I would say that is a time when I really struggled with it, because before then I felt like I had a good balance, especially with like my social self-care. Being single, it's so much easier to focus on yourself, which I honestly recommend being single as long as you can, so you can focus on yourself and get yourself right. But when I had my son, love my son to death. Best decision I ever had. Don't get me wrong. He's the best thing, hands down. I don't know what I would do without him. I don't know. But being a mom, transitioning from being a single woman with no kids to a mom and like a significant other in a very short amount of time, it was hard. I put myself last a lot. I barely took out time to even really properly take a shower because I felt guilty being so I felt like I had to be with my son every waking moment because, you know, he came out of me, he needed me, and I had the worst mom guilt ever. I rarely went to work out because I felt like because I had the child, that was my responsibility. So I had to figure out, you know, how to navigate that. And a lot of the times I just didn't go work out because I felt like a burden. Even asking my boyfriend to watch the child for like an hour, hour and a half. So I felt like a burden for about a year. Even asking for help. So, you know, that's why I'm like still overweight. I'm still navigating that space, but I didn't want to ask for help, and I was scared too because I had put myself in the situation to be a mom, and it was hard.
Oh, I get that. That's, you know, it's crazy to say that because like you see so many different dynamics, and I've never heard someone say it from that point of view. Like, you know, I put myself in the position to be a mother, so I felt like I couldn't ask for help. But I think that is also a form of self-care too, is like knowing when to ask for help and knowing that it's okay to ask for help. Like, we all need help sometimes, you know? Yeah. And that's why it is so important to have a support system and people to lean on. And, you know, you shouldn't feel guilty because you weren't the only one that made that baby. You might have been the person that chose to carry it to term and have the baby, but at the end of the day, you know, dad is supposed to be there too, grandparents. I know not everyone is always that fortunate, but, you know, definitely don't feel bad about leaning on the people that you need, because what's the saying? It takes a village. Yeah, it definitely took me a while to get used to utilizing my village because I've always been independent. I've always been one that's like, okay, I brought this on me. I need to figure it out. And that was a hard thing to grasp. So, yeah. And then also with it being my baby, like, I didn't want anyone around my baby. That's my baby. Yeah, it's like the protective mother instincts, which is like, that's fair. I get that. It's like, because they can't talk, they can't say anything to you. So it's like, how do you really trust anyone? Yeah. Else? And babies don't know that they're a separate person outside of the mother until about 7 months. And that has an effect on like the mother too, because it was so hard for me to give into that village. And they would even say it themselves, like when I was on maternity leave, bring him over, go do what you need to do.
and then come get him. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm about to start crying because this is a touchy subject for me. But yeah, I mean, now they're like, oh, can we get him? Yeah, take him. Sure.
Please give me an hour. No, that's so funny. I think about that every time my sister like gets a chance to go out with us, even if it's just for a couple hours at night. It's like she is like living. She has two, and she's like, dude, you know, it's nonstop, because I mean, it really is nonstop for y'all. There's always something that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. There's someone who always needs something from you. So when you do start to find those moments of like having a moment to yourself to do what you want, even if it's just to like read a book, like whatever it is, it's like, it's gold.
Yeah.
I think another thing with self-care too, though, is, and tell me if you agree with this, but self-care is also knowing when to tell yourself to get off your ass and get up and be productive and do something.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Because going back to my statement earlier, where it's like you find peace in your discipline and your routine, whatever goal you have set for yourself, a year later and you haven't made any progress, you're going to feel like shit. So yeah, get your ass up and work on it. Even if you don't do the work perfectly, do it badly, because at least that is progress in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I agree. Getting something done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've noticed that, like, I caught that with myself, like, especially working from home. It becomes very, I mean, like, I'm at home all day, right? Like, I'm just chilling in my house, working at my computer. So it's so easy to like have Netflix on and blah, blah, blah. And I used to catch myself being like, it's okay. Like, self-care, you have to take breaks. Like, you have to give yourself like times of rest, but it's also like self-care is also being like, okay, you've been sitting on the couch, vegging out, watching Netflix for 3 hours now. Like, maybe get up and do something. Like, again, move your body, stretch, wash a dish, fold some clothes, whatever it is. And kind of like you said earlier, like leaning into your discipline and your routines. It just like, it's all these moving pieces that we have to put together. And it's never one size fits all or any one thing, but it's like you have to have those moments of recognizing things too. Or like I noticed that, like I was mentioning earlier about social self-care. For me, like you said, being single, living alone, it gets very easy to pour into yourself. You have nothing but time to pour into yourself because you're kind of not on anybody else's time. You're only on your time. You don't have to really think about anyone else. Mm-hmm. But I catch myself like in these holes of, not leaving my house to go hang out with people and do things. And it gets really easy to be like, no, I'd rather just like chill at home by myself. So that's where I've been like really challenging myself to saying yes to more things, saying yes to more people. I remember last week I had some friends hit me up very last minute about a friend's birthday. And I knew that we had to record the pod later. And I was like, I'm only going to like be able to spend 30 minutes there. But like, instead of saying no, I was like, no. When's the last time you hung out with people? When's the last time you went out and did something? So like, got myself to get up, get dressed, throw on an outfit and show up. And it was worth it. Even for the 30 minutes, it was worth it. It was worth it to see, my friends' faces and smiling and happy that I came. And it also felt good to go out in the world and do something and not just be stuck in my little rabbit hole cave that I can eternally exist in over here.
Yeah. I like both points you make, because I do agree that self-care can be a fine line of lazy or rest that you actually need, because you can slip over that line really quick and become a couch potato. And then a year goes by and you're like, yo, what the hell have I been doing? But yes, and you also have to enjoy life too. and not be so hard on yourself. So kudos for you for going out. You know, you could have just said, I'm going to be late, Rachel. Can we record later?
No, it's okay. Because you know how it goes. One drink turns into 2 drinks, and the next thing you know, the rest is history. You're waking up the next day like, what did I do last night? But yeah, no, it was also very, very last minute plans. But no, I realized like saying yes to more of those things. And it's important too, because again, self-care is like so many moving pieces. You have to, and I mean, if you think about it, it's taking care of yourself. What do you need to do? And we as human beings, we have a lot of things that we need, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, all of that. And you kind of have to cater to all of those things. And I think sometimes we pour really heavy into some buckets, and then you kind of start to notice that something's off balance, and you kind of have to regroup and see where, you know, what's lacking. You know, maybe you've been focusing really hard on grinding, or even going hard in the gym. Like I've had to realize that too. It's like sometimes I get like so hyper focused on like, I have these fitness goals. I need to like grind, go to the gym as many days a week as I can, work out as hard as I can. But then sometimes your body is like, whoa, slow down, like stop. I need to rest. Like I had that moment this week. I was squatting, and I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and I was like, why does my form look so off? Like what's going on? And I realized that like I had been going so hard and I'd been neglecting stretching, and it's like I needed to slow down and stretch and like let my muscles like have a break. And it's like, you have to remember that too. It's like sometimes, you know, you're just throwing so much into one bucket that another one's lacking. So having those moments of self-reflection and being like, hey, like, what's off balance here? What do I need to like give a little bit more focus to, and shift gears and kind of know and recognize when things like that happen.
What are your stressors? Like, do you notice what your stressors are to where like, you're like, okay, I need to pay more attention in this area? What stressors have you noticed recently?
Well, I think my first thing that I always pay attention to is my space. So anytime I start to notice that my space around me is becoming cluttered, clothes are thrown around and things like that, for me, that's a clear indicator of my mind is cluttered. So that's one thing. I would say my big stressors right now, I think it's a mix of things. One is like feeling like, am I on the right life path? I think I made a lot of big changes in my life, you know, moving cities, getting out of relationships, moving out of living with friends, starting school. I started a lot of school. So I think that that's a huge thing for me. I have a lot of times where I feel like, am I on the right life path? Did I make the right decisions? That's a big one for me. Work has been a big one for me. I've been feeling very stagnant in my job lately. I love my job. I'm so grateful for it. I'm grateful for working at home and having a job, but I don't feel like I'm growing and learning in my job. And I also don't feel like I'm making enough money. So that's been a big one for me. Relationships is another big one. You know, we go back and forth through relationships, and you start to notice things and from your childhood that kind of shaped you to be the way you are now, and how to change those things. So I think those have been some of my big stressors. But but overall, I will say that I haven't been super stressed out and overwhelmed, because because I spend so much time alone, I have had so much time to spend to take care of myself. And I spend a lot of that time. Like recently, I bought a journal that I specifically use for writing things that I'm grateful for in daily affirmations, just positive affirmations that I have to tell myself every single day. Because I think there are a lot of things that we learn when we're younger because of the experiences that we had and the people that we grew up with that give us, teach our subconscious things that just aren't true, that aren't right. And so you have to take the time to put in the work to sit down and write down and recreate those beliefs for yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's funny. I started journaling too. My trainer, I know you're going to love this. She actually sent me a gratitude journal, just as like a freebie for signing up. And, I started it yesterday. I'm one of those who never really checks the mail. So it had been about a month since we checked the mail. So who knows how long it's been sitting in there. And I'm so excited. I absolutely love it. And I also bought a self-love workbook as well, which I'm going to start doing daily because I don't want to be in this spot where I'm in a year from now, which I also think is linked to self-care, like your relationship with yourself. I don't know where my relationship with myself went to the left, but if you would say, would you be proud of yourself right now? Do you like yourself right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, I would say like a 5. Like, I think I'm pretty cool right now. Do I necessarily like myself? Nah, not right now.
Yeah. Do you know what your stressors are and like what your things are that are causing you to feel that way?
Definitely my weight. That is a big thing that's put a downer on how I see myself. But at the same time, like, I know, because I've been really small, and this is the biggest I've ever been, and I've been heavier. But when I was smaller, I also kind of didn't like myself either. So I'm just like, no matter what size, I still didn't really like myself. So I'm like, I don't want to continue living not liking myself, because I don't know how much time I have left, and I don't want to spend the rest of my time being my worst critic.
Oh my gosh, you're literally, I want to say preaching to the choir, but I don't know if that's right. But no, literally, I get that, because I think about that. I was literally just talking to someone the other day, and I was telling them how I feel like, really a lot of us, like, since I think the pandemic really shifted our perspective a lot, and we've all kind of changed and evolved through going through that, and over the last couple of years recouping from that. And I feel like I'm changing, I'm like leveling up as a person, and I'm starting to notice, I always want to say I'm becoming this person, but the more I get into it, the more I realize, like, I've already become this new person. I'm starting to come to terms with the fact that I have changed. But like, as I'm like, meeting this new person that I am, I don't want to keep having these same like limiting beliefs and thoughts that I've been holding on to all this time.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to, I just spent however long in life, trying to work through that and navigate that. And it's like, as I step into this new part of life, like new lessons, new journeys, and things like that, I don't want to keep carrying those things into who I am.
Exactly.
So I totally get what you're saying. And like, guys, literally, I think it gets frustrating. And I was like, also saying this to someone the other day, it's like, we always want to hear, it gets like tiring hearing like, oh, well, like, what's your trick? What made you start feeling better about yourself? Or like, what boosted your confidence? Or how did you do it? And like, people are like, I don't want the cliche answer. I don't want to hear journaling and meditation and working out. But you know why people keep giving those cliche answers?
The cliches work.
Yeah, it's what it is. And like, there's no, it's kind of like how we talked about last week with like dieting and stuff like if there was a magic pill or a special magic routine or a dance or whatever it was that you did one time or you did 10 times in a row, and it just completely shifted everything and it made you a perfect person that always loved yourself and never worried about anything, like we would all be perfect people. We would live in perfect harmony. Like there would be no ugly in the world, but like, that's just not the truth. Like it takes time and work. Like you know, you have to do those things, and like, they might feel cliche or dumb and stupid. And you're like, I don't see why everyone says that works or that's not for me. But it's, you know, I remember the first time I did yoga, or I won't say the first time I did yoga, I cried like a baby after, but you know, it's like sometimes you do things like meditation. It's still something that's extremely hard for me to do, but I do try to practice it every now and then because it's good to sit alone with your thoughts and have a moment with yourself and just be present, you know, or journaling. Like you're not going to change those negative self-talk. Like I heard something the other day where they were saying how like when we have these like negative self-talk and you have these bad thoughts about yourself, if you don't teach yourself how to correct those behaviors or come up with some kind of plan to change those thoughts and behaviors, if you think about it, it's like a seed. It's a seed that you're planting. And when you continue to water that seed, so you're, you know, continuing on with that negative self-talk or those negative habits or things like that, it grows and it manifests in a way that you want. Whereas like if you sit down and you start planting that positive seed, you know, whether that's writing daily affirmations for you, whether it's meditating, whether it's going for a walk for 30 minutes a day, you know, whatever it is, and you start planting those positive seeds and you keep watering those positive seeds, then they start manifesting in positive and beautiful ways. And I mean, it really, if people are like, it can't be that easy, which it's not easy, it's work, you know, it's discipline, it's dedication, it's a lot of things that we've already talked about on this podcast, but you know, you have to plant those positive seeds because that's what's going to help you get there.
Yeah. And also too, you know, I love David Goggins. I'm a David Goggins fan. He talks about, I forget what he calls it, accountability mirror. So along with that, yes, talk to yourself positively, but don't sugarcoat your shit either. Like, in order to get the change that you want to see, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. So in that way, you can acknowledge what it is, so you can make those changes to go to whatever you want. So, like, if you're lazy, you need to be upfront with yourself and say, I'm lazy. I procrastinate, which in itself is, you know, you're acknowledging it, which you can help plant those positivity seeds on your journey to help you be a more productive person. So it's also being real with yourself too. And self-care is not always pretty, is what social media makes it out to be. That shit can get ugly and it hurts.
Yes. You know, the amount of times that I've been like in my house, ugly crying, but it's like, sometimes that's the work that you need, or it's noticing the things that aren't that great about yourself, because we're not perfect people. Like, no one is perfect. Like, if you think you're perfect, like, I'm sorry, newsflash, you're not. Like, no one is. Perfection doesn't exist. But yeah, it's like having those real moments with yourself and taking ownership for how things could be better or different in your life, because we all play a part in, you know, we all have a role in our own doing. And I'm not saying that sometimes bad things don't just happen. Like, yes, you know, bad things happen. But it's taking time to, you know, look at situations from the bigger picture and seeing how you can grow as a person. I always told people, like, when people break up, like, if you can't sit back and evaluate one thing about yourself that you could have changed, that could have possibly made this situation pan out different, then like
you're the issue.
Yeah.
You're the issue.
That's not saying that like you're a terrible partner, but maybe it was, I need to set better boundaries for myself, you know? Mm-hmm. Or, you know, I need to have higher expectations or higher standards or whatever it is. It's like, you have to take the time to do that work because, yeah, you know, self-care, it's not always beautiful. And honestly, it's the times that we grow the most are when we are the most uncomfortable. And like, if you think about it, in bad times, it's kind of when you grow the most. That's when you kind of have to, you know, pull all the things out of you that you didn't know that you had in you to get through situations. So it's not always as simple and as easy as putting on a face mask or getting your nails done or getting a massage. And yes, all of those things are part of it. And those things help and contribute to making you feel better. But it's digging inward, you know, and digging deeper into yourself.
It's mentally painful. Like if you want to have a better relationship with yourself, which is what I do all the time now, is whenever I start to like talk negative about myself, I have to literally catch myself. Sometimes I don't catch myself because I'm just in the flow of it. But then I'm just like, God damn. Did you just hear what you said to yourself? That was mean as hell. Like, you need to go back in the mirror and apologize to yourself and flip that shit around because what? Because
isn't that crazy? Like a lot of times we are so mean to ourselves.
Oh, I am so mean. Like all those comments I was getting on that one post that went viral. Like, y'all aren't saying nothing that I haven't said to myself a million times worse. So, yeah, I mean, it's annoying reading the same comment over and over and over again. But it's like, come on now, can y'all be any more original to actually hurt my feelings? Because I've already said this.
Yeah, you know, it's so crazy that you say that because I was literally talking to my best friend Josh today, and we were talking about like getting out and exploring new places and different places. I'm coming home to Charlotte this weekend, and I was like mentioning how I noticed that in the past, we used to hang out in Noda area a lot, which if you guys don't know, Noda is like the art district area. And, you know, it draws a lot of the more eclectic, free-spirited, hippie, do you want to call it, people like myself. And I used to always want to like go to South End because South End is like, there's tons to do in South End, Charlotte. It's a really nice area. And I used to remember I'd have friends, and we were talking today about how we would have friends that would always be like, oh, we don't like to hang out in South End. It's all chatty and bratty and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, today I was like sitting here thinking about it, and I feel like I've grown so much as a person where I'm like, first of all, what does that mean? And I'm not saying that I've never heard about the Chads and the Brads and the Karens of the world. Okay. Like we know they exist, but I said it really speaks levels to me of levels of insecurity that people are feeling in themselves, where if you're avoiding experiencing a whole thing because you feel like these kinds of people are there, and what is it about these kinds of people that you don't want to go and experience something new because they might be there? Because at the end of the day, an experience isn't about the people surrounded around you. It's about who you're going with and the attitude that you have towards it. And that's kind of what you get out of it. And I was like, you know, I realize when I'm around people and if I see a woman or a girl and I catch myself in my head criticizing something that they're wearing or something that they're doing, I've really gotten to a place where I've realized you're jealous. You're probably just jealous because you're insecure because you're not that comfortable in yourself where you would be comfortable to wear that or do that or say that out loud. And so I've really learned to take a moment to be like, you know what, let me compliment them on that. Or, you know, let's change that talk around, because the reality is for me to be like, I don't want to go there because the Chads and the Brads of the world are there. And it's like, well, what about me is inferior to being able to hang out in a place like them? And that's me obviously thinking that I'm lacking something in myself to not be able to thrive in that kind of environment. And I think that's just like such a huge thing. It's like you have to realize, when is it really you?
And that brings it full circle too. You know how I was saying I'm my worst critic? Like if I don't like myself, I am projecting all that negativity to other people when it has nothing to do with that other person, but everything to do with me. And then you're spreading all this negativity to everyone else, which is just, you're just in a bubble of bad. And eventually no one's going to want to hang out with you because it's like, why do I want to be around that person? And then you're assessing your quality of life, and and then you have to think back like, well, dang, maybe it was me. So it's just, you saying that brings that whole statement full circle to self-care.
And you realize too that like your thoughts manifest your reality, and people are like, people think that's not true, but I really feel that way because I'm not going to say that I've never had a bad time somewhere or something, but like I'm a very easy person. Like it doesn't take a lot to please me or for me to have fun. I know how to make the best out of most situations. I'm a very positive person. And I really think, you know, ultimately it's, you get what you put into it. I mean, if you go into it with an attitude of, oh, this is going to suck or whatever it is, guess what?
It's going to suck.
Yeah, it's probably going to suck. Whereas if, you know, you're more open to expanding your mind and being open to new things and new opportunities, you're going to have a much better time and perspective going into it. And hey, you know what? Sometimes you go somewhere and you're positive and it just sucks. The service is bad. People suck. It happens. That's an experience. But also you grow and you learn from that and you move on from that. And, you know, we evolve. But yeah, I think it's just like, it blows my mind because you just start to realize how much it is people are really just
they suck
with themselves. Yeah.
And misery loves company.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I had this one roommate and I feel like she hated herself more than I hated myself because she tried to make me hate myself just as much as she hated herself. And she would like literally be like, clocking me like, don't eat that or you're gonna gain so much weight. You gotta eat this salmon and spinach. And I'm like, I don't fucking want salmon and spinach. Let me eat my weight. Like, stop clocking me. Yes. I didn't ask for your advice and I don't want to be your friend no more. Like,
yes. And you'll start to notice those people will constantly be the people who are always complaining about life. They're always complaining about people. And it's like, you start to notice it's like, it's just an outward projection of what's going on inside their own head. So you just have to, you know, take the time and do the work. And I promise you, like, yes, there'll be ugly days. You're going to cry sometimes. You're going to be angry sometimes. You're going to hate yourself sometimes. I know what you mean because there's days where I wake up and I look in the mirror and I feel great about myself. And then there's days where I wake up and I look in the mirror and I'm like, I still don't love myself. And I'm like, I feel like I'm doing all the things and I'm going through all the motions. You know, it's a learning curve and it takes time, but it really is beautiful what comes out of it at the end. And you really do. And I think the other thing too is it's constant. It's something you're always going to be working on in your life, right? Because we're always evolving and changing as people. So you might go through phases of being really secure in yourself, but things happen. Like one thing I realize is like when I look at pictures of myself from high school and I'm like, how do I become that tiny again? And it's like, the reality is I'm a 26-year-old grown woman. Like my body is never going to look like my 19-year-old body ever again. Like, because we evolve and we change, and it's going to be the same thing when we get older, when we're 45 and we're 50 and 60 and our bodies are aging. Like, it's going to be a constant loop of losing yourself and finding yourself and losing yourself and finding yourself. But when you take that time to really, work on yourself and take care of yourself and cater to what you need, it gets easier, you become more secure in yourself.
Yeah. And as a parent, I feel like the relationship with yourself is literally the most important, because even at his young age, at 1.5, this little boy watches everything I do and literally copies me. Like, for example, it was so cute. Over the weekend, I was laying on the bed reading my book as his dad was playing the video game. And this little man grabs one of his little books and hops on the bed right beside me and tries to read his little book. So as a parent, that relationship with yourself and how you show yourself love trickles down to your little ones. And if they see you berating yourself and being so mean to yourself, they're going to think it's what they should be doing to them. And you may see them in a whole different light versus how you see yourself. And they're going, as a parent, you're the example. So you have to be that leader and show them how to love themselves. Because there's going to be so much hate in the world telling them to not love themselves. All with social media saying you have to look like this, you have to look like that. As a parent, you have to instill that confidence in them that how they are is perfectly fine. Yeah, you may want to change something here and there, but overall, you're not a bad person. But here's what we can do to grow to the person you want to become. And I want to be that example for my son. That's why self-care for me is huge, because he's watching. And I want him to be proud of his mom.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, absolutely. I love that you say that, though, because, I feel like I find myself in a constant loop of having to reparent myself because I didn't see my mom be the nicest to herself. And so I catch myself doing those same things with myself. And that's such a good point. I think something we have to remember is when, we're born with our conscious mind is 100% developed. That's why you don't have to teach a baby how to feed itself, right? You help them kind of latch on and figure it out, or, you put the baby bottle in their mouth, but they know how to feed themselves. They know when they're full. They know how to stop feeding. They might not be able to talk, but when something's wrong with them, they know how to cry to let you know, right? So it's we're born with fully conscious minds, but our subconscious minds are not developed. And the beliefs of our subconscious minds come from the people that we are surrounded by, which innately, in most instances is your mom and dad or whoever your parental figure is. And so, yeah, you're right. It's so important that you, pay attention to your relationship with yourself. I even think about that with my nephews and my nieces when they're around me. One thing I like to do, instead of telling them that I'm proud of you, which of course I do communicate with them that I'm proud of them when they do things, but I always ask them, are you proud of yourself? Because that's what matters the most. It doesn't matter what everyone else is thinking. What matters is that you're proud of yourself. So yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. It starts with self, and then the more solid you are with yourself, the better you are for everyone around you.
Honestly, I think we can learn a lot from kids, because kids, they're not tainted, and they're themselves unapologetically, because that's all they know how to be before they do become tainted. Like, they will tell you what they like, what they don't like. They have their boundaries. They're eager to learn. They see the best in every situation because all they want to do is have fun. And it's like, if we really pay attention, I feel like we can learn from kids how to love ourselves again and how to take care of ourselves, because a child is not going to let themselves be unhappy.
Yeah.
They don't like being unhappy.
Absolutely love that. So just give yourselves grace, you know, give yourself grace, but also know when to kick it into high gear, you know, hold yourself accountable and just be open to putting in the work and knowing that that can mean a lot of different things and it's different for everyone. Again, it's not one size fits all, but just taking the time to sit down with yourself and, you know, I suggest writing down, you know, really sitting down with yourself and thinking, what do I need? And writing those things down. And then as you write those things down, you know, create that checklist and work on them one by one. Start, you know, taking the action that you need to put those things in motion so that way you can be more secure with yourself.
Yeah. Man, this episode's made me about to cry several times. Being honest with myself.
But that's part of it sometimes too, you know, feeling those emotions and letting them flow. And that's what we're here for. Put it all out there.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard subject to me because definitely getting to a point to where I'm like at peace with myself is a big goal for me. So it's just like every time I talk about it, my eyes start to water just because it's...
Well, just know that you're doing a great job. You really are.
I'm trying.
I mean, even you doing this, you know, taking time to pour into a passion project for yourself, like that's an amazing and a beautiful thing. It's inspiring. I'm sure you're inspiring so many. You inspire me. I mean, that's part of what I told you when I first reached out to you. I was like, I saw you on social media doing it, and I was like, if she can do it, I can do it. So, you know, you're inspiring so many people, myself, I'm sure your friends, your family, and anyone else who's listening. So just give yourself some grace because you're doing a great job, even when you don't feel like it. Pat on the back.
I'm not the best at taking compliments, so thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Oh, is that it? Are we
yes. They're just like, I don't know if I can anymore. Well, thanks so much again, guys, for listening. We will be back next week with another episode, dropping all your favorite platforms. Please make sure to comment, rate, subscribe, all the things, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yes, email us. We want to hear your stories.
Yes, we do want to hear your stories. Make sure to follow us, guys, on Let's Be Real RJ. That's going to be on TikTok, Instagram, and again, we also have visuals on YouTube as well.
And Spotify.
And Spotify. So many platforms.
Okay. Well, I guess I can't really say goodnight. It's goodnight for us, but if it's morning time when you're listening to it, have a great day.
Let's be real.
Let's get into it. Let's have some fun.